What will 2022 be remembered for? I mean, it's impossible to tell, but at least when it comes to news and politics, I think we've got a pretty good read on it. We've put together our top 10 list. Francesca is here as always. Thank you, Francesca, for joining us for the top 10 list.
No problem. I mean, I'm not always here, but I'm glad to be here now.
Yeah, in a larger view, you're always
here. Yeah.
We're all stardust, but
with you in spirit.
Yes, you haven't been here much recently, but hopefully in the future. So, what's your number 5?
Okay, number 5, 2022. I do think, even though I think they ended with a little bit of phew, like they just ran out of steam, but the January 6 hearings were incredibly important, momentous. They started strong in the summertime and it kind of fell off towards the end. But to be honest with you, I think they were important. I think that even though Liz Cheney tried to, I don't know, be a hero and it failed and everyone, I mean, I don't know who gained respect for Liz Cheney, but I think they were really important, exactly. Important to listen to the victims, important to listen to Trump inner circle. I mean, some of the testimony was absolutely insane. The day that I was doing live coverage for TYT, it was the attorneys general like time to speak out and discuss, and like that was fascinating, just like all the number of rabbit holes that Trump made them go on in terms of election conspiracy theories and looking into them, and none of them borne out. So like, even though it's just something that's like so unsexy and will definitely be forgotten by mainstream news, and we apparently, again, will have to forget that January 6th even happened, that to me was one of the standouts.
Okay, that's a pretty big one. I mean, we're gonna have to see when they do their final report in like 2 weeks. Like, no, is it good? Do they have criminal referrals? I think that will really influence whether we'll immediately forget about it. If they do criminal referrals for Trump and it leads to actual referrals, then yeah, that's a pretty strong one. But is it on my list? You'll have to stay tuned to find out.
Oh, I didn't even know it was over. That's how little faith I have in them to actually like do anything, hold anyone accountable. As I'm like, oh, yeah. That was cute. That was a cute song and dance.
They've got a little bit more. We'll see. My number 5 is kind of related though. I believe, I don't know, maybe the stolen documents scandal, I think could break through for a couple of reasons. First of all, there was an actual raid. It's easy to forget how big that was, but that was pretty big. And it's such indisputable criminality. Yes. Like he had them. They went there and they were there. They could have raided and they could all be gone. He could have set them on fire or something, stuffed them down the toilet. I don't know. He didn't. They found the stolen documents, and it's, for me, it's not even on the top 20 of the worst things, top 40 of 100 of the worst things he did as president or after being president, but it's the one that is least able to be disputed, and that I think makes it something that hopefully we'll all remember. But again, it's going to come down to whether there are consequences, and that remains to be seen.
I think the reason also it's so different than the other scandals is that it's so concrete. Everyone understands, like, don't take private document. Like, it is so, it's not about extorting Ukraine. It's not about collusion with Russia. It's not all that stuff. It's just like, which somehow is hard to understand. I don't know, never got why it was so hard to understand. But this is like, you're gonna get raided if you take the documents. And I even think it kind of broke through to some Republicans. But again, maybe that's more wishful thinking on my part. Number 4, I do think that the Uvalde massacre was horribly momentous. I mean, the 2022 is going to be remembered for all the worst reasons in some ways. And Uvalde, not only where the victims were children, but where the police were so horribly inept and put on blast by themselves, really. And I think really shone a light onto how cowardly law enforcement can be and is, and how even when you have 60 to 100, however many good guys with guns, I know there weren't actually, I think there were less than that, but at some point I think there were 60. When you have good guys with guns, they will not stop children from being murdered. So that was an epic failure, and I'm still reeling from that. I remember when it happened, we all thought this will blow over because we're so cynical like that, and it didn't. It continued, and I'm glad we're still talking about how awful it was.
Yeah, I should have. This should be on my list. Oh God, you got me on this one. Yeah, that was really bad. I mean, look, I wish I could say it was unique that a school was shot up. That's not unique, but it was how much information we got about what was happening inside, and the fact that the country had to just watch hundreds of people who should be doing something do nothing.
Yes.
And then nothing still come of it afterward. Yeah, I think you're right. That's a big omission from my list, and a win for you on this top 10 list. If not for anyone else.
It is a contest.
It is a contest. We're trying to be the prognosticators. Hey, last year you predicted the invasion of Ukraine. I'm trying to do that. Yeah. By the way, we're gonna do our predictions one in a couple of weeks. And see if you can predict the next invasion. I don't know.
War with China. Sorry, keep going.
No. Okay. My number 4 is going to be Elon Musk being revealed to be the absolute worst. And I don't mean like that we found out. Like if you were paying attention, it was pretty clear that he was terrible for a long time. But it was like he's the richest, or maybe the richest guy in the world, or whatever. Very notable. And no, he's awful. He's terrible, and I think most people get that. Some people like that he's terrible, but they like him because he's terrible. That's what they like about him. Now, you cannot be agnostic on Elon Musk. You either like that he's a right-wing troll, that he's terrible, 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 or you realize that that's what he is and you've moved on with your life. And he's a very notable individual. He shouldn't be. I don't know why we reward the worst people. And I think it's also become pretty clear that he's not the genius he made himself out to be. But his descent, largely due to the purchasing of Twitter, I think has been an obvious notable news story. So that's my number 4.
I mean, I think it's the ultimate tech won't save us, billionaires won't save us, right? Like billionaires are not good people, and Elon Musk, you should not be a fanboy for him. I rewatched Parasite the other night, and we decided that the dude at the end, the dude is respect, that guy is every Elon Musk reply guy, like just like willing to live in his basement bunker and die for him, and like worships him, and then gets like stabbed with a like. It's not a steak knife, but stabbed with a sausage skewer at the end. It's it's amazing. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, no, that is so momentous. Like I think, and it's because we're obsessed with Elon because he's so odious. So I'm like, is my mind skewed? But no, I agree that is one of the biggest things that happened this year, and the ramifications will continue, and has shed a lot of light on like what kind of tech we want, what kind of tech we need, and what kind of that we don't. Okay, so my number 3, this started, and this is the thing that I predicted, but I do think Russia's war on Ukraine has been defining this entire year, and not just for the people of Ukraine, not just for the people of Russia, not just for global instability generally, but then what it means for things like energy independence, things like real alternatives to fossil fuels. And we've seen the reliance on, Europe's reliance on Russian oil and natural gas as a huge problem. And then you have, now I'm gonna forget the Nord Stream pipeline, right? Being exploded, like who blew that up? What is going on? Is that okay? Like it's just the amount of wars started for and around and about resources. Like I know that this wasn't that war, but it's just like can we finally veer away from fossil fuels and use this moment as an opportunity to actually invest in renewables? So it's a snowball effect, and I don't mean to get away from the human toll, but I think that to me is one of the biggest things in 2022.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with, and it's also crazy that like it all happened so fast, and it could have gone so differently if they had just succeeded in like taking Kyiv.
Yeah,
then that would have been a totally different story. You might not have had Zelensky being raised to this like international hero status. The time needed for money and training and weapons to come in, and this insurgency, basically counterinsurgency, to start to happen. And we don't know in a year's time what the status of the war is going to be, but yeah, it certainly isn't shaping out the way Russia would have wanted months and months in. My number 3 is a little decision by the Supreme Court. Roe v. Wade being absolutely destroyed. Yeah, they did it. They've wanted to do it for a very long time. They totally don't want anything more though. No, they're satisfied, they're happy. They've got everything they want and that's it. They're not gonna do anything more, but they did succeed in destroying Roe v. Wade, stripping away reproductive rights from tens of millions of people across a significant portion of the United States. There are still people who live in good states where those rights still exist as they have throughout our entire lives. But for others, no, and God only knows how long it'll take to fix this. It can be fixed. Theoretically, it's probably gonna take a bit, probably gonna take 10, 20, 30 years, God only knows. We might not make it there, there might not be a country at that point, but yeah, certainly momentous. Gonna be hard to forget that one.
Yeah, that is my number 2. I just want to piggyback off of it because the Dobbs decision was absolutely huge. I mean, it's we're crossing the Rubicon here with Christian nationalism. We're finally seeing it take real shape, right? This has been a decades-long project by the extreme right to strip abortion rights away from, people with uteruses, so like it, and we're not just seeing it in, like, it's been slow rolling, right? And people who've been on the front lines of this issue have seen it in state by state as sort of it was getting chipped away at. But now we're seeing it, it's all of a sudden, and it's happening very, very quickly. And that has horrible ramifications for people's literal bodies and their safety, whether they are people who are even pregnant and want to be pregnant, or people who do not want to be pregnant, children who do not want to be pregnant. But it's also, we're seeing the ramifications politically and how the people who aren't otherwise, maybe they vote Republican occasionally, maybe they are that swing voter, but they ultimately are like, look, I believe that you should be able to terminate a pregnancy when you don't want to have a child, right? Yeah. And so that is bubbling up. And I think the blowback in Republicans' faces that they weren't expecting is interesting. But again, it's gonna take a lot of people being forced into pregnancies, forced into parenthood, and a lot of death, continued death and suffering actually that from this decision.
Yeah, one of the darker moments, not just of this year, but of the entire time I've been doing any of this. Yeah. My number 2, a little different. It's going to be the midterms not being the disaster we thought they would be. I know it's easy to think, no, you're just focused on that because it just happened. No, I think we'll remember this. I mean, especially it could be remembered as the year that a lot of truly terrible candidates were rejected. Like we still remember, was it Christine Donnelly or whatever, the witch candidate? And no, she wasn't really a witch. And Todd Aiken, we remember really bad candidates who've been rejected. Well, this is lots of them all at once. The president's party didn't lose a single spot. That's pretty momentous. And whatever it is that happens in 2024 and 2028 is going to be influenced by the ramifications of the Senate races here. And the fact, by the way, that the House could have been 10, 20, 30 seats worse. That's entirely possible. And so that's super consequential, not just for the next couple of years, but definitely 2024. So I think that's something we're gonna be looking back on.
Yeah, I mean, I have runners up, but this is when you look back politically, you look at midterm years and usually they're like sleepers, and lately 2018, and I would say that 2022, when it's not a presidential election, folks, the voter turnout is low. It's not really that momentous, but it was momentous because Democrats did not lose as much as maybe projected. And honestly, I love that it broke the mold of the punditry where it's always well, the president's never gonna win in the midterms. And it's no, hold on. Stop writing this history before folks have even gotten to the polling place. I hate that. And so I'm thankful, and I think it's momentous, and I think it will go down in history as an election that did break that mold, and hopefully will be a sign of more things to come. But for sure, the Trump has the Midas touch line is dead in the water at this point. And you see that not just within mainstream news, but also extremist news, and the ways that Murdoch is turning away from Trumpism and moving more towards DeSantism, DeSatanism. But that is
sanctimoniousism.
Exactly, the sanctimoniousism. That's the story. That is the story. And I hope, I'm excited. I'm just so excited for the implosion of the right. I'm so excited for them to fight each other. It's gonna get scary and dangerous and extreme. It already is, but it's just gonna be fun to watch them fight.
Yeah. Oh God, I can't wait. Yes. So what does that leave as your number one?
That was my number one.
Oh, that was your number one. Oh,
that was me
so
going
close.
off on my number one. But my runner up, I have a runner up.
Really fast, before runner ups, I do my number one.
Yeah, you do.
This is the most overlap I think we've had. My number one is the invasion of Ukraine. Just so many people have died or have their lives actually destroyed, been carted off to Russia. The huge amount of war crimes, the completely unacceptable nature of it from the very beginning, the fact that it's revealed so much about how the right wing views Russia and Vladimir Putin and war and all that. I mean, there is so much about this story, and it's still an ongoing situation, but obviously it's impacted so many people's lives. So that's my number one thing. Although everything on this list has been really big, less so the Elon Musk. I don't care as much about that. Yeah. But yeah, Roe v. Wade, the midterms invasion, so significant. So what was your runner-ups?
Oh, I wanted to say about the Ukraine invasion too. Like, I do think that it's been a moment, and look, I think the hypocrisy around like which refugees from war-torn countries get let into which countries, I think that's really important to hammer down on. But I feel like in our pointing out of that hypocrisy, we shouldn't close our hearts to the Ukrainian people. Like, in fact, we should understand, and it should humanize all refugees. And if you need white refugees to do that, I don't know, so be it. But our call should be for all refugees and those fleeing war to be welcomed and be able to seek asylum in places in Europe and in the United States. So I'm like, I hope that can be our lesson, going forward. It won't be, but I'm saying it's a hope. Runner up, you know what? I think the Amazon labor union was huge.
Oh, nice, I like it.
Yeah, just the positive, something positive, and the impact of that, man, we're gonna feel it. 2023, if we thought 2022 was hot for labor, I think 2023 is gonna be even hotter. So. And I don't think Bezos can run from this for much longer.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw out, possibly we'll have to see the student debt cancellation, and that's obviously gonna impact a lot of people's lives in a very positive way. Lots of ways that are gonna be impossible to see, and we'll see about the climate bill. Yeah, but pretty momentous year. Seemed like it was gonna be a boring one. I don't think it turned out to be. Other than like the insurrection, I think 2021 was a little bit lighter on big momentous happenings.
I'd agree. I would agree with that. Like 2020, really momentous, bad.
Yeah.
2021, also just the beginning. The insurrection was like the tail end of 2020. We all know that.
We're gonna have to, at some point, we're gonna do top 10 years from the point of view of politics.
Oh my God, we're so old.
We are. Top 100 years. Anyway, we're not there yet. Anyway, that's our top 10 list. I'm sure there's stuff we missed, and I'm sure a lot of people would fill their list up with more, like stuff that was happening in pop culture or music or good stuff, personal stuff too. Anyway, you have a chance to do that in the comment section down below, as well as suggesting top 10 lists that you'd like to see us address in the future. Thank you for now to everyone for supporting the channel and the network and making this extra content possible. Thank you to Francesca for joining me as always.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, and we'll see you soon. For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.